So this is an update to a story that we talked about a long time ago about this creepy house in New Jersey.
Yes.
And it was people, they bought this house and they started receiving letters from a man called the Watcher.
Ooh.
Do you remember this?
Jeez, I do.
Okay, so I'm going to just recap the story for anybody that didn't hear it or doesn't remember. So these people named Derek and Maria Broadus, they moved into this home. They bought it for like $1.3 million. It's a very nice home. They started renovating it, spent, $100,000 on renovations.
Property
This
Brothers.
was back in like 2014.
It's New Jersey.
It is, but no, I think they're doing on their own. And they even moved all their belongings there, but they never moved in. Shortly after they bought the home, they started receiving letters from a man that called himself the Watcher.
Right.
And they're very creepy letters. And I'll just give you an example of some of the things that the letters said. I believe the first one was like, 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now. And as it approaches its 110th birthday, I've been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Right.
He said things like, it's been years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? He talked about their children in the letters. They have 3 children. Asked if they would play in the basement.
Who's the young blood?
The kids.
Okay.
Yeah. Asked if they would play in the basement or if they would be too afraid to go down there alone. Claimed that he would be too afraid to go down there alone because it was so far away from the rest of the house that if you were upstairs, you would never hear them screaming. I mean, it's super creepy stuff. Claimed that his grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, that his father watched it in the 1960s, and now it's his turn. And wanted to know if they found what lies within the walls. And wanted to know why they were there. It described their car, described everything about what was happening. Obviously could see them. And just sent 3 or 4 different letters. And it was very terrifying for them, and they were afraid to move in. So in 2015, the couple, they tried to sue the previous tenants.
Right.
Because they claimed that they concealed the fact that there was this crazy person sending letters. But they lost that in court because the previous owners claimed that they never received any letters. They lived there for 23 years without incident. They did say they received 1 letter right before they moved out, but that it was not threatening in nature and that they just discarded it and didn't pay any attention to it. They also
weren't married to you.
One of the neighbors of that house reported receiving a letter signed by the Watcher in the same time frame, but none of the details of that letter were released. I assume it wasn't that threatening. So they have called the police. People have investigated. They even hired their own private detective to try and figure out who this person was. The whole time not moving into the house because they were terrified to bring their kids there, which I don't really blame them. So the private detective still could not figure out who was doing it. No one was ever seen delivering the letters. They just claimed that it was somebody that was probably older and definitely lived in the area, but nobody knows who it was or anything that happened. So this new article has come out saying that these people have finally sold the house.
Yay.
So it has new owners. They did have to take a loss on it.
Right.
Sold it for like $959,000.
Wow.
The police department.
They sold to the Watcher?
No, I don't. Maybe. The police department, the family's attorney, nobody is commenting on it, and the new owners have not been identified. And so there's no word on if the Watcher is still sending letters or anything that's happened. But these poor people have now gone through all this and couldn't even move into this house that they wanted to, live in and renovate. So I don't know. It's a crazy story.
Sounds like a supernatural being.
It does. It sounds very strange.
That's really cool. I hope it's a cat in a trench coat writing letters while he's sitting out in front of a tree.
All the stuff hidden in the walls is just like dead rats.
Yeah.
He's been putting in there all these years. Now, in December, the rights to the family's story were sold.
There we go.
To Netflix.
Ding.
Yeah, so there's probably going to be a
I need
movie.
like a little ding for every time that happens.
For every time the story suddenly makes sense.
Yeah, for when it goes to the from the sadness of they took a loss in the house, but they sold their story to Netflix. Ding.
So do you think this is a legitimate thing? Do you think it's a hoax and they were trying to get out of the house?
Bamboozle us?
No, I mean like maybe they bit off more than they could chew and they were trying to
buyer's remorse. Yeah,
right.
I mean, it sounded like buyer's remorse.
Because they'd sued the previous owners, so maybe they were trying to get out of the lease.
Right.
Maybe they were just trying to, like you said, get the attention of the
I mean, if they wanted to
Story.
get really deep, I would look into their past. I would look into Facebook groups they were part of. I would look into, their purchases at Books A Million.
Right.
Did you buy paranormal, books all the time? Did you, do this? Did you do that? I think if I was doing a detective job on them,
right,
I would need to know that kind of stuff. Just like
Right.
when I go to a client's house and I'm going to interview them, I always look at their bookshelf, as I've talked about before,
right.
just to see if it's all demonology books,
I wonder if that private detective they hired did that like before he took the case.
I doubt it.
Probably not.
A
if he
New
was
Jersey
getting
private
paid.
detective?
He was
Nah.
probably getting paid. Well, on the other hand, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's somebody that wanted to buy the house and knew the previous owners were moving out and wanted to get it at a deal.
Or maybe it's a super mysterious watcher.
Maybe it is. And the house has some kind of second coming up.
Some kind of magic.
Not sure what that is.
Yeah, maybe it's some kind of magic. Maybe there's something there that we don't know.
Perhaps they should look at the area, the ley lines, the land,
I
the
know what I
history
would
of the
do.
property.
I'd go tear the walls down.
Yeah, I'd want to. Well, they're renovating. You'd think I'd be like, since we're renovating anyway, could y'all take a look?
I would one up them, and I would call Amazon, and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm the new owner of this house.
Right.
Netflix just bought the rights, but they don't have the rights to my house. So here's the deal: you guys want to come in and just go ahead and pay me, $3 million, because it's gonna make a lot more than that, and we'll tear this bitch to the ground.
We'll pull all the walls down,
See
see what
what
we find.
Let's see how the watcher likes that."
Oh gosh, if you just burned it to
we'll
the ground.
We'll dance
Oh.
naked in a pagan ceremony around it as it burns to the ground and see if the watcher shows up.
The watcher will send a letter, be like, "It was my job to protect this house, and you burnt it to the ground."
The first person looks like Carmen Sandiego coming out of the freaking crowd. We know. Tackle him.
He's like throwing buckets of water on the. Oh wow. Okay, we've just made fun of this whole terrible situation.
I'm sorry. You're such a horrible person.
I know.